Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Golden Age comic book aficionados, you are about to join us for the Golden Age of Comics, the greatest Golden Age comic book live show on planet Earth. What's up, y'all?
Whoa! Hey,
Dr.
Jack.
Paul. Oh my! Well, at least we're seeing the business end of Jack there. We've often seen the other end of Jack. It's a little less appealing.
Yeah, Jack's he likes to show himself.
Gotta pay them bills.
Captain Larry's here.
Dr.
He
Paul,
is Flying L Comics on Instagram and YouTube. You are on the road.
I am on the road, hence the backdrop. I am in Korea, where it is a nice 9:30 in the morning, and nice day here.
Is tomorrow going to be a good day?
I hope so. Yesterday was a holiday here. I believe it was Buddha's birthday or something like that. And today's a normal day, so everything looks good.
Tomorrow's a holiday for us. We're celebrating.
It is. It's Memorial Day.
Departed. Yeah, those that died in service of our country, that gave the ultimate sacrifice. Some people will be drinking beer and barbecuing, and some people will be taking a solemn day. But regardless, and Phil will be joining us soon. But we have our returning champion, Dr. Shelby Thompson. My man, how are you?
Hey, Shelby.
What's up? So are you having Korean barbecue?
You know,
I like Korean barbecue.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I love Korean barbecue, except I'm not a fan of kimchi. And no offense to people out there that really love it, but
I'm with you there. I'm with you.
Our mechanics. The mechanics come on board the airplane and they eat kimchi, and then it comes out through their pores, and then you got kimchi mixed with body odor, and that's really a detractor for me. So
I like me some bibimbap, the original bowl. Yeah. There he is. Shelby of Shelby's Comics on Instagram and on the YouTubes. And Phil, Phantom Phil of Phantom Comic Studios.
My audio? Okay. I know I was having trouble in past weeks.
It's not great,
it
but
sounds
we can
a
hear you.
little raspy.
Well, while Phil's getting his mic check on, let's just let everybody know this show, sponsored by, brought to you live, ad-free. Why are we in this? We should be in like this view. There we go.
Yeah, I was going to say we have a black screen.
It's weird.
For some reason. There we go.
I mean, I'm responsible for that, but I don't know why it got set up that way.
Yes, you are. It's all your
Obviously
fault.
my fault. This show brought to you by Jim Colage, Don Carter, and Gorilla Monkey 3K. We very much appreciate your sponsorship. If you're watching the show live, you're watching it ad-free thanks to those three gentlemen. Please give them a shout in the chat and show your gratitude. We appreciate it very much. And speaking of gratitude and speaking of generosity of our viewers, Jim is sponsoring next episode as well, as is You Pluck My Last Comic.
Yes, he is.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Helps us offset costs for the show. And it allows us to create the content without digging too deeply into our own pockets. So we appreciate you. We would do it anyway. Don Carter, also, thank you so much. Man, again, the generosity of our
we lost Shelby.
sponsors. Well,
Phil,
he was overwhelmed.
Microphone is muted, by the way. You're muted.
He was overwhelmed by the generosity of our sponsors and just blew him right out of the stream.
Sorry, I was switching over my VPN and I didn't know it would disconnect me.
That's all right.
Yeah.
There we go. Having lots of fun. So we do appreciate everybody's patience. The last show that we did, which was actually 2 weeks ago, we had a horrendous storm blow through Central Texas here and took out my internet. And I apologize for leaving abruptly. I normally like to do my sign off and tell everybody to take care of one another, but didn't get to do that. But hopefully you all took care of one another anyway. In fact, I hope you took care of one another better than my Pistons took care of their round 2 opponent in Game 7 on account of they met with an ignominious loss. And but it was a great season for them anyway. And, they'll be better back next year. So that's why we were here last weekend. We had Game 7, and I had to be there for Game 7. So we appreciate that you have patience for us. But we're back now. So I am going to go ahead because my segment was a little disjointed. I'm going to do my segment from that show, which is on the Conserved Action Comics Conserve 7.0 that sold, record-breaking, most money ever paid in the history of the world for a conserved comic book. And then we're going to talk about a topic that came up during that conversation, which is how many Action 1s are left? And are there more that are going to be coming out of the woodwork as the boomers...
Literally.
Yeah, as the boomers kick the bucket. And we're going to talk about that. Nobody knows is the true answer, but I have an opinion, and it's informed by certain things, but it's not necessarily the right one. So we love to get some audience participation in that conversation, and we look forward to that. So that's our show in a nutshell, and hopefully Phil and Shelby are both with us for good now, because you both
Is my audio sounding okay now?
Yeah,
we can hear you now, Phil.
That's
it's
better.
so strange. This is 3 weeks in a row. It's like I have to unplug and plug my headphones back in every time. Like the initial setup just gives me bad audio. I'm not sure what
I'm
it is.
going to buy you a microphone.
No, I actually have one. I just need to get the right cord for it. So.
I mean, I'm on the road. I travel with mine, you know?
Yeah. I travel with mine as well.
So I have one of the, I just need to get the cord. So I'm
Oh boy.
close.
Oh, I have that exact one. I threw it in the dumpster. It's terrible, Michael.
Oh boy. Oh boy. All right. Well, I think we should get started.
Yeah, let's go.
Here it is. So my apologies to those who saw the first couple slides already 2 weeks ago, but I'm going to just start here for continuity's sake, and we'll be on to brand new material soon enough. So as you recall, this book sold at auction, and it broke all records for a conserved book. And we started to talk about the population, and Shelby corrected me. And we went back and did some statistical analysis. It turns out Go Collect doesn't quite have correct statistics on the median. Does that really matter for most folks? I think it probably doesn't. But the actual
I've had
median,
to correct Go Collect, yeah.
Yeah, the actual median grade is 4.0. And we did some statistics the old-fashioned way. And so I left this here to remind myself that I had told you 4.5 last time, and it is in fact 4.0. And 44 universal at the time of the show, 38 restored, 84 all grades over at CGC. And yeah, I don't know, Shelby, if you were going to talk about PGA and or PGX and or CBCS.
Well, yeah, no, I wasn't, but I will give those statistics. I think there's only 3 copies that have ever been slabbed by CBCS.
Right.
Actually, this comic that this conserve grade actually used to be a PGX comic. Mm-hmm. It was graded as a restored.
Sure.
And it was
shocked that they saw that.
it was deslabbed and sent to CGC and got a conserved grade instead, because I don't think PGX has a conserved category.
Right. Yeah.
They do
put
not.
it
Yeah.
so they put it as restored. And the only thing that I was highlighting in this graph that you and I actually talked about a little bit after the show last time was just the, if you notice the purple hump,
At 7.
it at 7.0, the blue hump at 3.0, and that when you look at the number of universal, which is 44, to restored, which is 38, which is really, really, really high percentage between those two, that you don't really see in any other Golden Age books that we've talked about before. And you do see that shift of there being a lot more higher grades with restored, which you should see, because hence the comic being restored and then that bringing the grade higher. But why do you see? And that was a conversation that we held off, and if we wanted to have for the community, what are y'all's assumptions of why we see so close in a population of restored to universal with specifically this book? And I don't know. There's a couple of explanations. One is just because of this book being what it is, the very first Golden Age book. Maybe more people just want it in better looking condition than what it is.
Shelby, there's actually one book that we've covered from the Golden Age in which there are actually more restored copies in the CGC census than universal. I'm going to give the chat like 90 seconds to try to guess what it is. But it is a book that we have featured and we have discussed on the channel. And while we give the chat a minute, I just want to highlight this comment from You Plucked My Last Comic, and which is God bless our fallen and remember them, and just echo and mirror that statement. Obviously, those that gave everything for our freedom, we should hold in the absolute highest regard. Speaking of, we also have Collecting Chaos coming in too. Thank you again for the generosity, all of you. We really appreciate it. Anybody in the chat? I'll tell you what, I'm going to start at the top of the chat, say hi to everybody that's checked in. And when I get down to the bottom, if you've made a guess of which Golden Age comic has more copies restored than universal in the CGC census. So again, thanks, Jim Collegier. AJ's here. Welcome, Aubrey. Collecting Chaos is here. You Plucked My Last Comic, of course. Ben Stewart. Yahoo McLovsky. I love that. I suspect I know who that is. Collecting Chaos is here. And Sales Boy, welcome. What's up, Dylan? Gorilla Production 73, also AKA Gorilla Monkey 3K. And that's it so far. I guess that's what happens to us when we take a week off. No guesses. And so I'll just reveal it's actually All-American 16. All-American 16, 34 copies in Universal, 35 restored.
I wonder why.
What a monster. It's just so rare in any copy.
Yep.
And the median grades are so low too. Oh, to me, yeah, that's a book. Anyway, let's continue on here. So here is the total CGC census for these three monsters: Action Comics 1, Tech 27, the aforementioned All-American Comics 16 being the rarest of the three. All-American 16 not yet having $1 million sale, which is partially or in whole part, I guess, just because of how rare it is. Because if a high grade of that comes to auction at any point, it will for sure make the seven-figure club. Seven-figure club today consists of these, somewhat ironically, 7 books: Action 1, Tech 27, Superman 1, Batman 1, Marvel Comics 1, Captain America 1, and my favorite, All-Star Comics number 8, which is a key for some reason. I think it's because Dr. Midnight and Starman joined the team.
Yes. That's it.
If you have any other guesses as to why that might be a key book, let me know.
Sexist comment.
They got a new secretary that issue. Good point. Hawkman was like, the chairman used to have to do the secretary issues, but finally I don't have to. Action Comics number 1, the cert ending in 3001, off-white to white pages, 7.0 conserved, graded January 12 of this year. Conservation includes tear sealed to cover, cover reinforced, cover cleaned. Presumably that means the interior of this is untouched. Note, no comments regarding replaced staples or anything else. I mean, a very original book. This tear seal.
It's a nice looking book.
Yeah,
The
the tear seal
staples
and
are
the cleaning.
incredible. Staples are incredible. I have done some zoomed in and close looks of this book. Yeah, the staples are beautiful.
Welcome, Ben Compton and Chanko. What's up? Thanks for joining the show. Grader's notes include 2 small creases right bottom of front cover, light multiple stain top of front cover, very light crease left bottom of back cover, tear with crease bottom of back cover. Imagine having any book from this era where the Grader's notes were were that minor, let alone an Action one. Unreal.
Yeah.
Here is that top half of the front cover, and make note of the number 1 in the upper left. We're gonna have a cameo from that later in the show. You notice the staining that is mentioned in the Grader's notes in the blue field along the top edge, but once you get past that black demarcation line between that field and the right and the white of the trade dress, this section of the book is literally flawless.
Yeah, it's
incredible.
beautiful. And there is a conversation between the person that sold this book and Matt Nelson on YouTube. And Matt talks about the interior as being beautiful with this book.
Off-white to white pages. I mean, poof.
Yeah, it's amazing. And we don't know much of the origin of this book either, which I'll discuss a little bit unless Paul's going to in his presentation.
No, I'm gonna do just the facts on the auction, more or less, and we'll leave that rest of that conversation up for later.
Okay.
But with respect to off-white to white pages, even, come on, I got books from the 80s that I bought off the newsstand when I was a kid that have cream pages.
Oh, for sure.
It makes you
incredible.
wonder if, with the work here, it's at least possible that the interior was clean and deacidified too, and if it was done obviously correctly, no dimensional changes, could have gone through and
It's
no
possible.
cells. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
certainly possible.
I tried to find any information of when this book was conserved because it is I guess you'd call it a 2-owner book. The person that consigned it to the comic book company, Prestige, I think is the name of the guy's company, comic book company, to actually put it up for auction. He purchased it in the early 80s. And so we don't know who the previous owner was prior to that. And I could find no information of that person having done conservation work to it prior to him packing it up for the last 30 years until it came
Yeah.
for auction.
Well, the scenario is almost certainly there was an original owner. It was sold to a dealer. The dealer had this work done, and then the dealer sold it, and it was packed away.
That's what
after
I'm
that
thinking.
sale.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking too, Paul. Which then means that they did something. Obviously, maybe this staining across the top, the lightning on the black bar is some of the indication of the cover being clean. On the back
Mhm.
cover, there's also some of that same
Yeah, let's
rinsing
move
of the
on.
black inks.
Before we get there, though,
There's a
let's
little
just
bit at the
marvel.
bottom of the cover there. You can see one of those staples really clearly here in this
Yeah.
image, and they are just beautiful.
You see this
Um,
tiny crease,
Yeah.
Tiny
bottom right
crease
corner,
on the
but I
bottom
mean,
right corner.
it's barely perceptible. This is
It is.
almost as good a looking copy as you're going to see.
Yeah.
Welcome, Uncle Griff's Comics. Glad to have you here. Back cover, top, beautiful.
Yeah. Just a little bit of the top corner. You can,
Yep.
and and very common for this age of book to have that weird, kind of miscut shift.
You mean like the the binary tear at the top, like the little piece missing?
Yeah.
Yep, very common.
Yeah, that's very common. You can see a little bit of staining along the left edge there. And right there in the very center where the airplane is, you can see what I was talking about with maybe
Sure.
some black inks missing. And anybody that has done restoration work on, and Paul has shown it in several of his videos, black inks from this age tend to flake sometimes
they can.
with cleaning.
Well, I tell you though, one thing that's
Especially the
super
interior
fortunate.
cover. I know we've all had problems with the black inks on the interior of the cover.
Yeah. But
What-
this could have easily been that black color touched when this work was done, right? We're so fortunate that that didn't happen, and then this book could
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
qualified as
Restored.
conserved rather than as restored, right? So I think in to that same point, I think whoever did the work really did good work in terms of knowing when to say when to stop, right? Another thing I'll comment on here, and it's obvious here, but it's also evident from the front cover. The whites of this book have been lightened correctly. This is as white as these pages got. It's not over whitened. It's not over bleached. This is not, by the way, this is still not white, right? I mean, this would be like, you would consider this color bone, or, it's certainly an off-white color, right? And this is how it should be. So, again, hats off. I think this work was really quite good, especially given that this work was done in the 80s?
In all likelihood.
All likelihood. I mean, that's the only thing I can guess from what little information is available. Sadly, that's one of the things that we struggle with sometimes is information.
There weren't that many people doing this level of work back then. I mean, this may have been worked on by Bill Sorrell.
Yeah, it's possible. There's someone in the studio.
Because there just weren't that many people doing this level of work in the 80s.
No.
I wonder if like the story of the book, when I see Grader's notes on a book like this, and we can presume the work was maybe done 35 years ago, plus or minus a little bit. When you see in the Grader's notes, there's a tear with a crease. It makes you think, you're like, how? Like, that's in all likelihood just due to handling. Or, I mean, because you would think, like, why would they do everything there but not seal the tear? It's also possible, too, like you said earlier, Dr. Paul, it was just really a less is more approach without the idea that this book would be going to a third-party grading company where every tiny little detail like that matters.
This is 20 years before CGC existed.
It's really this big. Why we don't need to do that.
Gorilla Monkey 3K, thank you so much for the super chat. It is appreciated. Richard Abia, welcome to the show. Joining us through either Shelby or Larry's channel. Appreciate you wherever you're coming from. and bottom of the book showing another bindery tear, and then
Yep.
a small tear
And
about a
that's
third of the
what
way in along the
yeah.
bottom edge.
The conserved note said tear seal to the cover. This is that tear seal.
Yeah.
I zoomed in really, really, really good, and it does look like and I can't tell what adhesive was used with the tear seal. Obviously, it had to be something of a conserved nature for it to get a conserved grade, but it is done it looks like it's done on the inside of the cover. There is a little bit of perhaps staining that has come through with that.
Probably a bit of a tide mark from someone that.
That's
did
what
the
I'm
tear
thinking
strip.
it is, Bill. Exactly. Yeah, it's more of a tide mark than a stain.
Sometimes too, though, in my experience, like that, what you're seeing there can simply be the thickness of what they use to mend, and then as the cover's flat up against the inner wall of the book, there's just enough protrusion because of that extra thickness that what you're seeing really is just kind of the way the light is hitting it, because it is just slightly
Sure.
not flat in that area. Yeah. Sadly, we don't have 3-dimensional images yet. But,
Oh, no, come on.
Okay, so this happened a while ago. I think everybody knows what it went for, but if anybody wants to play the game and do shout outs, I have shout out some guesses, I should say, rather. I have the reveal of the price, and then I have a would you rather, since we've never had a book of this quality. In fact, there hadn't been a 7.0 action really to compare it against anyway, so we didn't have this is what a universal book is worth to even compare it with.
Right.
Anybody who somehow is under a rock wants to throw out a guess, or somebody can just tell us what it hammered for. It's fine.
What we're saying is, if you're watching this and you don't know what this went for, we're calling you out. But
Shame on you.
You know what? Sometimes life is better if you're not trying to keep up with the current news. But Collecting Chaos correctly points out, gently wiping with a cotton round can take black ink off a comic from the 30s. It certainly
can.
It sure
certainly can.
Yeah, I know Paul and I talked, I think a couple of days before this auction ended, and we were both really close at the price.
That it eventually
So it went for like I had,
hammered for 1.4 million on May 7th. And what do we think? Was this a steal? Was this the right price? Is this an insane amount of money to spend on a funny book? Is this
I
an
look at
insane
it-
amount of
if
money
it-
to spend on a conserved funny book?
If I had the money, I'd buy it.
If it was properly deacidified, that book will last the next 100 years.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I
yeah,
doubt
it's-
it was.
I think it was. I doubt it. If it was conserved back then, I doubt it as well.
Yeah, it probably wasn't.
Hmm.
But it is such a remarkable price. It's like it's easy, and I don't know. It's a lot of money. A record this is the most expensive conserved book that's ever sold, correct?
Yeah.
It
By a
is.
mile. By a mile. It also sold for more than any restored book has ever sold for what that's worth.
Conserved.
No, I'm saying, but I wasn't,
Is that
I
to
didn't
say that-
misspeak there. I'm saying no restored book has ever sold for more than this either. There's a restored book that sold for
even the 9, even the
it sold for like 960,000.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
That's right.
this
Yeah,
is
no,
a-
it is the first conserved or restored book to ever break 1 million for sure.
Yeah. The good news is, Larry, if you bought this, you could crack it and you could deacidify the interiors, and then we would know the
Absolutely.
work was
Yeah.
done
If one of you guys want
properly.
to buy it and send it to me, I'd be more than happy to do that.
Collecting Chaos was going to, except a temporary situation. It's slightly out of
Good to
his
be
price
responsible.
range, just momentarily, just at this time. Any other time it had come to auction, KK would have had your back there. So again, we didn't have anything to comp it with in terms of Universal, but I found this,
Yeah, these are
the
good.
last 3.0 that sold for 1.5 million. And I just thought this was a really interesting question. Which of these two books would you rather have? The 3.0 Universal sold for 1.5, or the 7.0 Conserve sold for 1.4. I mean, let's just, among gentlemen, say that's essentially the same price. So
Yeah.
which of these two books would you rather have? Or you could say, I'd rather have the conserved one plus a brand new Corvette, I guess. What's $100,000, right? Plus taxes and plus taxes and destination fees. It's incredible.
This is one of the hardest would you rather's, I would say. This is tough.
Yeah,
Not for me.
Not for You Pluck My Last Comic.
for me.
He's on the conserved book for sure. So is Jim. Jim wants the conserved book. Don Carter would rather have the conserved book. Ben Stewart would rather have the conserved book. Although Ben Stewart says buy the 7.0, crack it, remove the work. I don't know if you get away with removing the label here. I think it's got tells.
I think that would be a mistake.
Yeah, it's got tells in the cleaning.
Yeah,
maybe.
It's more than likely that CGC would say we know that copy intimately because it's an Action 1 and we know that the cover is clean. So it's at best conserved is what they would most likely say.
Yeah. Dylan's on the conserved book. Collecting Chaos says he'll take the conserved book, but rather than the new Corvette, wants a 64 Mustang convertible. I hear you, man. I like the fastbacks myself, but I hear you.
I'm gonna go Universal just to
Yeah, actually I'm gonna join Phil on that. I was gonna say that Universal looks filthy, and I think it could be clean.
It's an old label. It's got a little bit of a spine roll. Maybe that's really a 4.0 Universal.
It does. I think there's room for keeping it a blue
bump.
Label.
There's a bump.
Take it, bump it. Even a half a point bump is a huge bump, and there's the spine roll. It's filthy. I think it has potential.
I think that the reason that book would be the better pick is because you could crack it, you could deacidify just the interior, and then, unless I'm mistaken, just by the process of the cover being in close enough proximity to an interior that's been deacidified, it will incur some net positive result.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Right? So
great sign demonstrating this.
You wouldn't have to actually clean the cover on that book to deacidify it, and then you can maybe get a slight bump in page quality and keep the book Universal label while having it incur, conservation treatment.
Yeah. I like the idea, although most of the chat here seems to be on the conserved book. I like where you are, Phil and Larry, in terms of taking the Universal plus rolling the dice on the bump. I think is a swell question.
I wouldn't hesitate cracking that 3 open.
Yeah. While we're at it, because many of us are car guys, I'm gonna read out the others. You Pluck My Last Comic says for him it would be a 68 Roadrunner. Nice. Which package is what I want to know, but another great choice. Jeff Jack, welcome to the show, says nice little bungalow down the Jersey Shore. Can you get a bungalow for $100,000 on the Jersey Shore? I don't know about that. We're not talking about the full price of the book. We're talking about the delta between these two, Jeff. Just to be clear, you only get $100,000 for this little game. A 69 Mach 1 is another choice for KK, and he says he'd rather have the Universal now that he looks at it closer. Well, if you take the Universal, you don't get the
just the book,
the Mustang. Yeah. So
can I say just for my OCD too, I look at the production cut and I'm like, It's a little straighter on the universal. So I mean, if I'm spending that much money, all those little things matter. So I'm not. It doesn't. I don't.
I
Like
think.
that the other way.
Okay, listen. This for me, you guys. This is a little bit. You guys know too much for your own good. The 7.0 presents so much better, and long term, I just think is where it's at for me. Because no matter what you do to the 3.0, maybe you technically get it to have a higher value than the 7.0, but it's still not going to present as well as this copy. So I'm on the conserve one.
It does
myself.
present well.
Yeah, Jim. Listen to this. Another GM man, 87 Grand National, strong choice. The only one of the cars mentioned with a 6-cylinder. All right. Well, that's what I had to present for the day. And again, thank you all for your patience. That was supposed to be presented 2 weeks ago, right when the auction result was fresh. But and you know what? Ironically, funny enough, as everybody knows, last week we didn't do the show because Pistons were in Game 7, which didn't go my way, but we had a hailstorm roll through at exactly the same time. We would have had a storm in the middle of the show again. So it's probably best that we took a week off. And otherwise, we would have had basically a rerun of me trying to present those slides while my Skylink was destroyed. So Dan Delator says, I'm old enough to remember when restoring comics was accepted and appropriated. You know, I recall reading in like the first Overstreet that I ever bought when I was like 12 years old that Robert Overstreet had some guidelines for what the value of a restored comic was. And it went something like this. If the value of a 4.0, well, you didn't say 4.0 back in that day, right? He said, if the comic was originally in VG and it had a value of $100 in VG and the restoration made it VF, and if it had a value of, say, $400 in VF, that the value should be halfway between those two, that the new value with the restored work should be halfway between the original grade and the new grade. And that was the Bible, right? In terms of the authority on pricing was Robert Overstreet, right? That was a long time ago now. And obviously that's not the rule of thumb we use today. But that was the old, that was the old rule.
I wish I kept all my old Overstreet books. I remember as a kid, my first Overstreet was volume 7. So what was that be? 1977 or so? Because the first one was 1970, I think.
Yeah, 70 or 72.
Actually, I think that's
I
feel like it's a year later than that. I think, wasn't it 71 the first year?
71, maybe it's 71.
Yeah.
I mean,
something like that. Yeah.
But your first one you remember was number 7.
Yeah, I my older brother took me to a comic show. It was my first one, and I saw all these crazy expensive comic books. Like they're incredibly expensive. They're $100. Who would pay that much money for a comic book? And one thing I picked up was volume 7 of the Overstreet Guide. And so I wish I still had it.
Well, I know what I'm getting you for Christmas now. Nobody else get him that for Christmas. Nobody else get him that for Christmas. I got it.
Yeah, all of my Overstreets are packed up, but I have a pretty big collection, and I wanted to look back at some of that.
I have a near complete collection of Overstreets.
Yeah.
My number 1 is the reissue. It's actually signed by Bob, who's since passed away, I believe. So that's a treasure.
I'm sure he's
have
long
an
passed
original
away.
print. It was actually recently. I don't have an original printed number 1, but I have originals of all the rest of them. And then I stopped. I don't buy the new ones now.
Well, there's
some of the later ones I don't have.
There's a great
I have all the early ones.
There's a graded number 1. It's a 9.0 for sale at Heritage, so I think you should jump on that.
I'm happy. I'm happy with my signed reproduction from Bob. Thunder God Comics, welcome to the show. Says, "Praise God, Shelby is still alive. We're all we're all
friend of
happy
mine
he is
there.
still alive."
Old friend of mine, Thunder God.
John Scamardo, welcome back. I haven't seen you in a while. Dan Delatorre says Robert Overstreet was accepted as the authority. I'm not at all happy that CGC has taken over that mantle. Well, the only thing constant is that everything changes. What other business do we have between the A and the B block? This is normally when we say thank you all for joining the show. Thank you again to our sponsors. And if you're enjoying the show, whether you're watching it live or you're watching it on demand, please give us a thumbs up, sub to the channel, sub to all of our friends' channels, and check out the Facebook group, the Comic Book Conservation Community. If you are a boomer and you're on Facebook and you don't get enough comic book conservation content here. Similarly, if you want the definitive book on the subject, it is available exclusively on Amazon. You can pick the soft cover, which Shelby has there, or you can get the hardcover.
Actually, not exclusively. You can go to your local bookstore
right here.
and request it, and they can order it for you.
Yeah, that's true too. I just had somebody contact me and reach out about some help on something, and I said, honestly, I could spend 3 hours explaining this, or you could just go get our book. So there's another sale, Shelby, from referrals. So anyway, without further ado, let's jump into the second part of our conversation. I see you've upgraded your Superman artist for your.
I said last time that John Byrne, man, I love anything John Byrne does. So speaking of the storms going through Texas.
Oh yeah, let's. I didn't know if you wanted to bring it up. I'm gonna give you a solo layout for a second.
What are we looking at, Shelby?
This is the back of Shelby's house. It's not supposed to look like that, by the way, guys.
Okay. There we go. I'm seeing it a little bit better now.
A tree has disrupted the building, has entered the building.
Yeah.
Uninvited.
I'd say so.
Yeah. So we have had some wicked storms. Shelby is in a dry corner of his house, thankfully, and still has his internet.
I do, because the internet is in that corner right there. But yeah, so ups and downs, had the tree go through part of my house. But in other news, I did finally get a job. So after being unemployed for 6 months, the bad news is I'll be moving to an undisclosed location in North Texas here in the next few months. But then another bit of good news is I just finished a draft and I'm working with a publisher right now on my next book.
Wonderful.
Yeah. So this isn't about conservation. It's about what I do in my job, which is user experience research. So this will be coming out later in the year, probably near the end of the year.
Nice.
So
great. Congratulations, Shelby.
Yeah, and then our newest book,
Mike has a personal message for you.
Yes, Groot attacked. Yeah, I am Groot right through the house. And then someone asked when our next book is coming out. You'll have to keep poking Paul. I've told everybody that y'all can just start sending all your messages to Paul to edit that thing, and we'll get it out as soon as the edits are complete. And I will be reaching out asking for some images and stuff like that once we get a little closer. So stay tuned for that.
Spring migration is almost over. The rarities are just wrapping up now. We had common
He's talking about
Gallinules.
birds, not girls.
We had common Gallinules 2 days ago. Everybody went nuts for
Common
that. So-
Gallinules, of course.
Tastes like chicken.
Well, I was out on the trail the other day, and I was looking for rarities, and I had some gals approach me, and they said, "Have you seen anything amazing today?" And I said, "I just saw a gray panted MILF." I don't know the last time she was flirted with on the trail out there, but she seemed to. It was received well anyway. All right. Let's get on with let's see, this says
Yes, let's go ahead. So
Bronzeville, I think we did artists last time, and I think we had Wayne Boring was mentioned. No?
Wayne Boring, I think, was mentioned. So
I don't know
Yeah,
he
if
was,
not,
actually.
that's on y'all.
Yeah.
I gave my 2 cents.
yeah. All right. So a little history
You
of
ready?
the sales, and then we'll ask the question again. Do we think there's any more Action Comics #1 hidden in the wild somewhere?
No.
Hidden in an attic or a basement or in a wall. So let's look at because really, I say past 35 years, it's with the advent of Action 1 kind of going up in price over the years, really with the boom in the late 80s of comic books. But then also Overstreet. Overstreet was reporting these sales. Prior to that, we didn't actually have any history of what those sales were. So,
and
it's really
not
that
for
late
nothing.
80s period until today. Go ahead, Paul.
And not for nothing. Dan's comment notwithstanding regarding CGC, once a third party, a disinterested third party could grade something, that thing could then be de-risked. And once it's de-risked, people could pay a lot more money for it.
Yep.
It was really difficult for say celebrities that love comics but don't have deep domain knowledge in comic grading to plunk down $1 million for, like Nick Cage for an Action 1 prior to there being a third party authentication system. So a lot of the value that's created has been created by the existence. And if you don't believe me, go and look at the history of coins and bills and other collectible things where a third party grader came in. The value of those markets went up dramatically. And if you're a holder of old comics, as most of us are, that means the value in your collection, whether you intend to ever sell it or your heirs do or whatever, has gone up dramatically because of the existence of these third parties. So, they come with pros and cons, of course.
Yeah. So speaking
of our buddy Nick Cage,
of Nicolas Cage, we actually do have pretty decent history of this one. It first came to market at Sotheby's in 1992 and sold for $82,000.
Did y'all hear that? He can't say oil, but he can say Sotheby's.
Nick Cage bought it in 1996 for only $150,000.
Yeah. From our pal Vinny.
Oh my God. Anyway, it was stolen in 2000, which we talked about last time. It was found and then sold again by Nick Cage in 2011 for let's call it $2.2 million. And then it was sold again just this past January for $15 million, the highest world record now for a comic ever paid. A 9.0, you can see it there on the side, a beautiful copy, but really in just 30 something years, going from 82,000 to 15 million. I mean,
it's a pretty good return.
Yeah.
Pretty good rate of return.
Yep.
Didn't the insurance company settle with Nick Cage?
They did, and I don't
and
know.
then he bought it back. I didn't think it was really a dispute. I thought it was just resolved.
Yeah, the insurance company paid out to Nick Cage, and so
Mhm.
legally the insurance company owned it, but he
Owned
did
it
make
when it was
a deal
recovered.
he did make a deal with the insurance company
Right.
and bought it back for somewhere around what I could find out around $1 million-ish
Around a
dollars.
million. Right.
And
So
so
he did.
he did double his money, and he sold it pretty quickly after he got it, like within 6 or 8
Lisa
months.
Marie forced him to, or her attorneys did. But I think, in fairness, I don't think there was a dispute. I think they actually. So interestingly, from 150 grand to the 2.1 million, those are big gaps, right? I think
Oh yeah,
if I remember correctly, the insurance company paid him more than the 150 grand. So he technically like made money on the theft, right? But then
yeah.
he actually bought it back from the insurance company for more than they paid him in the
Yeah.
claim. So the insurance company made money too.
Yeah.
And then of course, again, during the divorce with Lisa Marie, the attorneys forced him to liquidate his collection. And it got sold for the let's round up to 2.2 among friends. So,
For sure.
but I think Nicolas Cage as a collector had impeccable taste, had just the finest books. And even though it's not technically a pedigree, right? If you have any book that has from the collection of Nicolas Cage on the label, to me, that's a very special book. Whether you're a fan of him or not, he was one of the great curators of our era. And
and the new Spider-Man.
I mean, practically any copy he had was in the top 3 copies in the world.
Yeah.
I think that's, I mean, of all the ones that I know of, at least, that's literally true. I feel privileged to own just one book that he owned. And yeah, so this is great. I appreciate you putting this together, Shelby. Welcome, AI Comic Grading. He's here to replace CGC, I assume. I'm kidding, of course. But welcome to the show. Glad to have you here. Anything else on this, Shelby, or shall we move on?
No, please jump ahead. So we talked about there's only 4 pedigrees. Now there are collections, like Paul just pointed out, like the Nicolas Cage collection, but that's not a pedigree. Right. There's only 4 known.
And the Christine Farrell.
And the Christine Farrell collection is one.
I don't know of any others from the collection of. Do you? Just those 2? There may be others.
I'm not sure if Charlie Sheen was on there. I think there's also the like I own I'm not going to think of it, but there are several out there.
Sorry, I didn't mean to derail you.
No, that's fine. So the 4 pedigrees that we talked about last time, 2 of them don't have any known sale values, which is the Edgar Church and Lamont Larson copy. But the Billy Wright copy sold in 2012 for, only $300,000. It is a 3.0, but according to Go Collect, 3.0s go for 1.5 billion right now. So,
and then I just showed the last 3.0 to sell 1.5 million.
Yeah. And then the Kansas City pedigree sold in 2024 in 8.5. Off-White sold for 6 million. So
yeah.
And I think this may be the one that Dan Delorte is mentioning. Dan
Delator. I think Dan Delator wanted one of the 8.5s with white pages. This one has off-white to white.
Yeah. But I don't think there's any Action ones that have just white pages. I think off-white to white is the
somebody in the chat
highest designation.
Yeah, I don't know.
But
Kansas City is one heck of a pedigree. That's the other pedigree that's all number 1s, right? Like
only number 1s.
Like Carson City. Yeah. That's incredible that the Kansas City and the Carson City pedigrees are both nothing but number 1s.
Nothing but the best.
Larry was with me when I picked up my Carson City All-Star Comics number
Yes, I
one
was.
in
Yep.
Dallas live at Heritage.
That was-
and
That was very impressive.
I was just beaming. I
Mhm.
just to hold that book was such a special moment for the first time, and it is still one of the highlights of my collecting. I won't say career because I'm not a professional, but what a book. Not anywhere near the Kansas City action one, though. That's
No.
another.
Well, you can pick that up at
That's
the
another
next,
level.
Collector's Summit.
That's a whole nother level, man.
Crazy.
All right. So some other significant sales. Oh my gosh. So we talked about this one last time, the what's called the movie magazine copy discovered in a stack of old movie magazines in the 80s and was sold in 2010 for 1.5 million. I think that one also has off-white to white pages. The family foreclosure discovery, which was interesting, that was discovered and sold pretty quickly in July of 2010. The family lived in the house for 50 years. 50 years, never knew a collection of comic books was in the house until their house was going to be foreclosed upon and they were packing it up to move, and they discovered this box of comic books. And inside was an Action Comics #1.
Literally sounds unbelievable.
Unreal.
And they reached out to I'm not sure, reached out to Vincent or who at Comic Connect or
Steven.
Metropolis, but he actually went to the bank and convinced the bank to stop foreclosure because this comic book is actually worth money. They'll be selling it, and we'll have the money to actually pay for the house to keep it
Stay
from
in the
getting
house.
foreclosed upon.
So
So-
imagine somebody saying, "What was the greatest windfall that ever occurred in your life?" And your honest answer is, "When the bank foreclosed on my home
Yeah.
was the best windfall that ever happened to me." Because had they not foreclosed on my home, I wouldn't have known about this book in the
Yeah,
attic.
wait a minute.
Well, I mean,
Was it
in
where was it? Not in the attic. In the attic?
I couldn't find any information
sure.
of where they said they found
Incredible.
the books or anything. They just said when they
You
were
would
packing up
presume,
the house.
right? That would
a
make in a
box
crawl
was
space or
discovered.
something.
Where else would you not know about a book in your home? But I mean, who knows? I mean, people do. There are plenty of people that don't live the way I do.
Yeah,
so-
there were several other books in this collection. Like I think there's
Right.
an Action 5, a 10, things like that.
Yeah,
And just recently, the lady discovered her father's collection of comics that has Detective Comics
The 27 and the 31.
27, yeah,
the
thank
Tech,
you.
the Tech 27, yeah.
in it. You know, she never knew father collected comics or anything and just found this box of old comics of her father's. So in August 2016, the East Coast aficionado copy was brought up for auction. It was discovered in the early 90s and then held privately since then, and was purchased for $26,000 and sold for almost $1 million. In 2018, a coverless raw copy that was previously unknown came up for auction. Sold for sold for 82. Sorry. And now the movie magazine copy sold again in 2021. So you can see that doubled in price basically from 1.5 million to 3.2 million. Then we have the Rocket copy, which sold 3 different times within a 2-year or so period. So
is that counting the upcoming, or you're counting the
no,
upcoming as
not
the
counted
third?
upcoming.
Yeah.
That was
That'll be number
2022. Yeah.
So
That'll
it
be
sold
number 4.
twice, yeah, in recent succession, and it's up. It's crossing the auction block again.
Yeah, for the
Yes.
fourth
Yeah.
time.
Comic Connect. Yeah.
Yeah. So this was part of that Billy Wright collection, so it is considered a pedigree. But you can see it's all in a row here. It sold first for 3.2 million, then 3.4 million, then basically 3.6 million, and it's coming up for auction here in about a week on Metropolis Comics. So you
it's
can go
going
bid
for
on that.
3.8. That's its record. It goes for 3.2, 3.4, 3.6. So 3.8 is next, right?
We'll see.
Yeah, it does come with the original rubber stamp that the book was stamped with from the young man who did that.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot about
I
that.
think is the awesome little element of provenance.
Yep.
When you buy that comic, you get the little rubber stamp with it. Man,
So
we're gonna
that would
show
be
that
cool.
we're gonna show that copy in a minute for those of you that
yeah.
haven't
So
seen it.
previously unknown came up in 2023, which was a coverless copy, and it sold for $408,000, a 5.0 coverless. I think no, it's not.
So that one was.
I'm sorry, it's not coverless. I'm sorry, I'm thinking of something else. I apologize. Go ahead, Phil.
I was gonna say I was curious if that was actually the qualified one that was missing the centerfold that was simply reholdered.
I don't
But I'm
know
not-
because it's universal. So
Well, no. What I'm saying is I wonder if in a weird move someone took a 0.5 universal because it was missing something and had it graded with the green qualified. Because
oh yeah, could yeah
because there was
sure.
a green qualified that just sold.
Hey,
I don't know the grade, but it was missing the centerfold, and I think it went for about that much, maybe a little bit more. Maybe it went for 480 actually.
Mhm.
this is about the cheapest you're going to be able to find a a comic that you can marry.
Sure.
Back and forth from.
Well, but also the Superman story is in the beginning of the book. If you're missing the centerfold, you're not missing the Superman story. I would think if you're missing the centerfold on any book, this would be the book to be missing the centerfold from, right?
Yeah, but there's the whole incomplete nature and how.
Sure, but I'm saying like we're gonna see some
I'm
single pages later.
Yeah,
Single pages, if they're part of the action, the Superman story, they're worth buku buck.
Oh yeah.
And if they're from any other part of the book, they're like kind of like any other old page. They're not,
Yep.
Who cares what the Slam Bradley story was?
Hey, it says in the label this was a part of an action one, so.
All right, and then Paul talked about this one earlier. I know we talked about this. Paul and I did a show talking about this, the Christine Farrell collection, a complete collection of DC comics from Action 1 all the way up to, I think, 2010, 2013. And it was a restored book, graded 6.0 and sold for $324,000.
I think whoever got that book stole it. I mean, because that was such an amazing.
I
price
agree
for
with
a
you because
restored
that's
book.
about 10% because a 6.0 in Go Collect sold in 2022 for 3.1 million.
Yeah.
So I mean, this is around like I said, 10%.
Yeah. Well,
around that time too, there was the sale of the 5.5. It might have been just after or just before, but there was the 5.5 that went for 480. Oh no, I'm sorry, 380. No, I don't want to mix it up. I think it went for about 60,000 more than that 6.0 restored actually. So yeah, to your point, that was a good buy. I mean,
Yeah.
for what it's worth.
Christine Farrell, another amazing collection, not a pedigree, but a collection recognized by CGC. If you have the privilege of owning one of these books, of course, there are a lot of them since it was a literally complete DC collection. Every book published by DC, all three of the original elements or conglomerate companies that ended up being rolled up into Detective Comics eventually were National. Again, I'm privileged to own a few of those, and I'm just thrilled to have them. One of the cool things about the collection, too, is that some of them are also pedigree books. So if you get one of those, it's almost like a double provenance book because it goes in the black and gold pedigree label, but then it also has a denotation from the Christine Farrell complete collection. Ooh,
That's cool.
ooh.
Those pedigree
That's-
labels too are like, I'm not one for the label variants and stuff, but those really like they did those really well. They
They
really
created
did.
something that actually does make you look at it and go, want.
Pretty. Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, welcome, Jason, the Archivist Adrift, to the show. I don't know why we're talking about this book. I guess it's the first appearance of Slam Bradley, but we're talking about this book, Action 1, Jason, just to get you up to speed.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
And then
Shelves.
the book, the conserved book, which we were just talking about. So Timothy Haig purchased this in the mid 80s. What was interesting, and you should go back and look at the video, but a company would literally produce this book of all the auctions that they were going to have, right? And it'd be, I think, about a year-long thing. And you had to, back in that day, literally write in your bid and mail it in on paper and an envelope with a stamp. And it could be months, before you would know if you'd won anything or not. And so he mailed in a bid, what he called a lowball bid. And he said about 4 months later, he got a letter back saying, congratulations, you won this book. He ended up he didn't have the money. He ended up being able to work out some kind of payment plan and held it for 40 years. It was originally a PGX graded book, restored, like we said, submitted to CGC and came back conserved.
Yeah.
And the first conserved book to sell for over $1 million. So
Question is, did they send the PGX label back in so that it got removed from the PGX census? That is what we need to know. Uncle Griff says, I love the pedigree labels. I'm afraid to send the blue label pedigree books in for regrading and reholstering. You can do it face-to-face at some of the bigger cons, like in HeroCon. You can hand it to a person who takes it back behind a curtain, kind of like Wizard of Oz-like. And then, the next day, or if they call your number and you go over there and you pick it back up, so it never leaves the location. So maybe that's the best you could do. I guess you could do walkthrough as well. You could go down to Sarasota and do walkthrough as well.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, I don't like the pedigree labels. I don't like that gold.
The black.
What?
Well, that's
those
what makes
pedigree
markets,
labels.
man.
They're
You can sell me
beautiful.
your pedigree books
Black
at
and
a
gold?
discount because they're so ugly, Shub.
Yeah.
So
So here is a couple of those books that we just talked about. The Christine Farrell book, of course, there. The family foreclosure copy. Man, look at those colors on that book.
dark
But it could
that
be
is,
part
man.
of the camera. Also, the East Coast aficionado copy, and then that 0.5 copy that we talked about. Pretty meshed up.
I mean,
Got
that
some
looks
little
like it would buff
cubes
out.
and pieces missing, but
Yeah, I think that would buff out.
yeah, I think so. And then the Rocket copy. So it's going to auction again, and that auction is starting and will run, I think, 14 days or something like that, or till the end of the month. I'm not sure. Remember, the last sale was 3.6 million. How much do you think it'll go for? And are you going to bid on it?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like most of our viewers are in the market for this book, probably.
Oh, for sure.
I feel like most.
I'm going to bid on it, but I'm pretty sure I'll get beat in like the
Yeah.
first 5 seconds.
I tried to put my bid in early, but it'll probably jump up to like $200,000-$300,000, and like I know it'll go past that. But the idea of being a high bidder and having to pay at that price, oof.
Yeah.
Well,
You know,
I've
I
already-
bet if you had a good relationship with your bank, you could probably bid $1 million for it, and you know, if you
Well,
get it, you know, you're in good shape.
the bigger thing here too is that there's I think it's a $25,000 bid threshold where you need to get approval to bid on things higher than that. So even if you want to, you can't.
Ah.
It's not like we could throw in a thrill bid to want to be high bidder at 250K. They're like, yeah, sorry.
Yeah, it'll be exciting to watch. And actually, you know, there's been a march onward for every sale. Every sale has broken the last sale in grade of Action 1 for as far back as I remember. You know, will that continue forever? Will there be a moment when the market takes a pause or goes sideways, or even goes
I
down
don't
on
think so.
their book? I don't think so either. But, you know, if it was going to happen, I think part of the reason it doesn't happen, frankly, is because when we have big pullbacks, like when we had the great financial crisis or other, you know, hiccups in financial markets and asset classes across the board tank, usually the folks that own these books are in a position where they don't need to sell, and they just don't bring them to market. They just don't bring them to market during that time period. You know, I'll tell you, if we had a 20 or 30% correction in the stock market, do you think this would be coming for auction right now? I doubt it.
Absolutely not.
No. I mean, and you know, if I owned it, I sure wouldn't let it go to auction during one of those moments in time. So
Yeah. It's kind of a
But
bad.
I will be scouring the auction during that time.
yeah,
'Cause
right.
somebody's-
For
And
the,
it's
for the
a
folks
good
that did
auction.
have to bring something to auction, then yeah.
That-
Yeah.
yeah, that's
this is
a buyer's
good au-
market with that goes down.
Yeah,
Yeah.
go look at this auction. It's a good auction. It's got a lot of golden age books, and you know, and I would say in the lower to mid grades, but a lot of books you don't see coming up for auction very often. A lot of publishers I've never seen books from coming up. So I know there's a few books I've got my eye on.
Yeah,
I am bidding on four books in this auction. So not this book. Yes.
I think at least I don't know. I think globalization's kind of a hell of a thing, and it's crazy to see how even outside of the U.S. how strong, how strong of a desire there are in cultures for vintage Americana. You know, from oil automotive
Bill,
oil cans to comic
perfect.
books.
Perfect example, since we have a lot of car enthusiasts here too, I will share. I bid on a car in the past week that I was actually the high bidder on, but it hammered and did not meet reserve. That car, within less than 1 week, sold to a buyer in Dubai for 17 grand more than what it hammered for and didn't meet reserve.
Incredible, huh?
Wow.
Yeah. Speaking of Americana, it was a Corvette. Speaking of Americana being exported.
Yeah. I mean, it's also notable that the two of the highest graded copies of Action 1, the 9.0s, one of which just sold, were known to be owned by Ayman Harari, who was his father was the former prime minister of Lebanon. So there is clearly, you know, he clearly isn't an American. You know, there's a lot of this is something that has transcended
International money.
Like,
You gotta park that oil money somewhere, man.
But I guess what I'm getting at is I truly think that, like, long before any real crashes in the market will happen, books like this are impervious. Like a book like this and Detective 27 to me is something that museums would want to get something. Like there's always going to be a desire, so it's never going to drop out. There's not enough of them.
Yeah.
So.
Speaking of oil money, though, actually, oil may have been one of the only assets that has done better than comic books in the last 6 months.
That's
I
for
wonder
certain.
why. Crazy.
All right, let's move on.
All right, so some oddities that have sold in the CGC census. It's there's 52, which is more than Universal page only, and 3 cover only submissions, of course, compared to that 44 Universal.
Wow.
Most of those page only come from one person. So if you look here at the second image, you can tell someone took an Action 1 and put it into a 3-ring binder, and
As you
that
do.
person purchased the binder and then got each page slabbed. So that's where a lot of those come from. Over here on the far left, just the issue number. Just the issue number sold for $7,000. If you look at the back, if you look at the back of this issue number, there's a big splotch of red paint. So what happened was the whole book got splashed with very deep Corvette red paint, and this was the only thing that kind of was salvageable from it. So
incredible.
Notable with the sale of that number 1 was also a little plastic bag filled with slightly brittle pieces of paper that had also
the dime bag of
maybe even
brittle
with
pages.
one or two of the original staples too. So
Phil, here's a great illustration of my point from earlier. Like, if you're going to be missing the centerfold of a book, look, a page.
That's why I put
Superman
these.
story.
That's why I put these side by side. So the last page, or the first page, sorry, which of course would bring more money, but you also have a page 7 here for comparison. Page 1 sold for, we'll say, $58,000, but then a page 26, which has no Superman, but is from Action Comics 1, sold for only $1.5 thousand. So go ahead, Paul. Yeah.
Oh, just to say, like, to put that in context, right? So that's basically 3% of the value of one of the
Paul,
pages.
you make a really good point on paper there, and this sale really does illustrate that, to show, like, sorry, but there clearly is parts of this book that are the reason the book has its
right.
value.
The sort of corollary to that is that means there are parts of the book that kind of don't matter.
Exactly.
And so I get that a Action 1 with the centerfold missing is a 0.5, which would be the same grade if the cover was missing. But those two books do not have the same value. Like a 0.5 with an intact cover and the centerfold missing is worth literally 10 times what a 0.5 where the cover's missing, right, is worth. So
and a good somewhat similar example I can think of is in the original art world. In the last, I want to say 5 years ago, there was a page from, Journey into Mystery 83, right? The first Thor. So a page from that book, you're like, oh wow, that must be a valuable page.
It's from the Alien backup story.
So it was from the Jungle story. So it's got like a lion coming out of something. And it went for, I think, $7,000 or $8,000.
Was it penciled by Larry Lieber, or was it a Jack Kirby page?
I think it was a Larry Lieber.
Yeah, a lot of the backup stories were penciled by Larry Lieber. The other Nepo baby in the Lee family.
The worst Thor page in that book, in the Journey into Mystery 83, would easily go for $100,000.
Oh,
so another page that's still book, but not Thor, went for just like we see here. So really, this is a greater disparity, though, for sure.
Yeah.
But it is the content that you see is that's what matters the most. Provenance is important, but ultimately, if you're spending that kind of coin on something, you want it to look like.
So we wanted to touch on this subject because I brought it up before, and I mentioned that I talked to a prominent dealer who told me he thinks there's still hundreds of copies of Action 1 that will come to market, and he based it on his personal knowledge, which I respect. That he's been a dealer for a long time, and when he was a dealer back in the 80s, he said literally every con I went to, there were multiple Action 1s available for sale. And those have to be somewhere. And I guess they don't have to be somewhere, but again, I'm not saying he's wrong. We don't know the answer. But I approach it with without that knowledge that he has, which in some ways, as I approach this question, without the burden of that knowledge, sometimes you know too much and it leads you to the wrong sort of conclusion. And I'm not saying that's the truth here. I'm just saying it's possible. So Shelby pulled together some data for the how often new copies come to market.
Yeah, so a lot of what we've talked about are books that have been known, so to speak. Like, okay, we knew this sold, like the conserve grade. We knew, I mean, maybe not publicly knew that that book existed because this was the first time it ever came to auction, but it wasn't a wild find, right? It was in an auction not in the mid 80s, purchased by a person and then held for, 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're talking about things found in the wild, undocumented copies. And in the past 30 years, there's only been 3 copies found in the wild. The foreclosure copy that we already talked about was found in 2010. The wall installation copy, which we talked about last time, found in 2013. And then the Adams copy, that came up for auction in 2014, but that was found in the wild in the late 70s. And we talked about this when this was the Virginia Mountain copy, where the dealer went up there, bought some books, then they found the action later, and he thought it was a reprint because it was in such great condition, and didn't buy it. And then Phil, I think, had a little bit of cross with this book. So Adams bought it and came up for auction. So one of the highest known graded copies of Action 1. So that's been it, for the past 30 years of those in the wild. Now, like probably the conversation that Paul had, when you see comics for sale at a convention or an auction, where are those, right? And so the friend that Paul was talking to, this person says that those books have to be somewhere, held in private collections. And as, people pass away or whatever, hopefully those books come out of the depths of wherever they're being held at.
Part of my counter argument, though, is that, part of the argument here is that as boomers die off, these will re-enter the marketplace.
Yeah.
But boomers been dying off. And as you can see, we've had no new copies found in over a decade now. And furthermore, I think this is the graph. As you can see, and Shelby will explain this in a moment, but anybody that's taken an advanced math class will see these graphs are the known populations, and they're basically asymptotically approaching a limit here. And by the way, that limit looks like it's well below 100 copies total between universals and restored. So please go ahead and give us the legend on this, Shelby.
No. You said it perfectly. So CGC, of course, formed in 2000, and you can see over the first 10 years of its life, they only graded total around a little less than 40 copies. Now, what happened was, of course, and you can talk to Matt. Matt took over roughly around this time, but CGC became prominent. It took about 10 years for them to gain any kind of foothold as a in the comic industry in terms of like a third-party grader. Here's the benefit of that.
I think, explained another way, there were old school collectors who were just I don't believe in slabbing. I'm old school.
Yeah, they were kept in those plastic comic fortresses
but once they once they saw that phenomenon that I described, where the value of a book is a
Yep,
lot
undeniable.
more if it's completely de-risked because a third party tells you what the value is or what the grade is
Yep.
anyway.
Yep.
And once those old school guys who were like, I ain't never slabbing a book, realized, well, okay, you can sell your copy for 200 grand or you can get $1 million. They were like, slab my book. Or their
Yep.
heirs.
That's exactly
were like,
right.
slab my book, right?
Yeah.
So
Well, yeah, it's probably the latter.
and that's where this boost happened in terms of the CGC census. But again, yeah, I mean, to me, again, if you just if I told you nothing about anything, but you had just taken a little bit of math, you would look at this and say, oh, well, this is a function that's asymptotically approaching a value. And where is that value for total copies? I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's 90, maybe it's 85, but it ain't even 100, let alone it being, many hundreds. So I'm putting a flag in the sand. And again, I'm not saying I'm right or I know more than other people, especially those with more experience than me. But I am saying I feel these data give us a good enough idea that we know that I'm sure there will be another copy found at some point. And I'm sure there are some where somebody bought a comic back when they were way into comics in the 70s, put it in a dresser or in an attic, and basically kind of forgot about it or never told their kids about it. And, they pass away and that book will, find its way to the auction house at some point. So I'm not saying we won't find more. I'm just saying if you've only found 3 in the last 20 years, you're not finding 3 more a year for the next 20 years. It's just not happening mathematically.
And
it would be it's a statistical impossibility essentially.
I think one of the other good points too is that you see in markets that are expanding like this, there's so much what's the word I'm looking for? Like there's a lot of incentive when you see prices like this going up. There's just people that hold on that didn't buy it for even close to this. You start seeing the price. People are like, oh, okay, this is enough where I kind of got to.
I got to let it go.
And for most people, the levels that this is at now for the average person, it's enough incentive to say, all right, now
it's life-changing money. It's not only life-changing, it's generational wealth creating, right?
Yep.
And so it almost feels irresponsible to not cash in when you're faced with that kind of a decision. By the way, guys, this is my moment to just say, I love our chat. Jason makes me laugh out loud every episode. I appreciate you. And I do love the old guys. That was my impersonation of a curmudgeonly person, not that much unlike myself. So
get off my lawn. Get off
yes,
my lawn.
Exactly. We're at 90 minutes, Shelby. So
this is the last slide. So the closest thing we have, if we want to ask ourselves, is there any Action Ones left in the wild, right? In the attics, basements, garages, things like that. In 2025, so just last year, a Superman #1 was discovered, an unknown copy. So this is kind of a funny story, is the mother and her brother purchased comics as children in San Francisco. And it was a smattering, so it wasn't a complete type of run. Because it's during the Great Depression and then during World War II, they were purchasing these books. And she was 9 years old at the time of purchasing Action #1. They were kept in a cardboard box, protected by nothing more than a pile of old newspapers. No preservation was taken. However, due to the cool Northern California climate, it did preserve the books, leaving them with firm spines, vibrant colors, crisp corners. A VP at Heritage, Lou Allen, noted that the same copy stored in a Texas attic would have been destroyed. Mm-hmm. So we need to start us as conservators do think about that, right? As you're talking about a book that the longevity of the pages is estimated around 50 years. And when you don't have good preservation, whether accidental or purposely involved, the environment can take quite a toll on that book. And so if you want to think geographically about these comics being shipped from the Northeast, very few or less was made it out to the West Coast, to the south of the United States.
Sure.
You do not have the proper climate for preservation, or accidental preservation, I should say, like you do in this Northern California climate.
Making
And
it all the more.
if you went a few hundred miles north of that into Seattle, this thing would be mush because the climate is so much more damp
humid
there than in Northern California. Northern California is a very dry, cooler climate.
Yeah. Speaking of which, that brings to mind the wild, just improbability of the fact that one of Matt Nelson's claims to fame is that he was manning the sales desk at a comic book shop in New Orleans when an Action 1 walked in the door. How did that survive in the swamp, in the bayou, that many years?
Well, that was also in the 80s, so you're talking about a book that's only about 40,
40 years old
at
instead
that
of 80
time.
years old.
So,
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, what was funny was the mother had been telling her sons for years that she had a box of old valuable comic books, and they always dismissed it as a family legend. It's like, sure, Ma, sure, you got this box of expensive books. It wasn't until she passed away, and then during the 2024 holiday season, they started cleaning out the mother's home, and they discovered the books in the attic. 3 months later, after discovery, they contacted Heritage. So along with the Superman 1, there were several other Action Comics number 9, which is went for graded it at 6.5, and number 12 they graded at 9.0, and number 15 graded 9.4. And 18 that graded for a 9.0, and a 21 that graded for an 8.0. So the Superman 1 ended up being graded for a 9.0, which is the highest grade ever assigned to an unrestored copy of this book. And it was the first edition copy too. So it had on the inside, on sale June 2nd, where the second and third printing has now on sale.
Yeah.
And it sold for $9.12 million. And I think I have some images on the next slide, and then that's it for this slide.
You know,
so there's the Superman, there's the other actions I talked about. So the I mean, come on, man. Oh my God. That number 12 and 15 are just beautiful.
Captain Larry, did you just buy something off of eBay?
No, I lost something.
No.
But you recognize the sound. You shouldn't have heard that. The phone was on silent.
That's okay. Well, I know it makes a cha-ching sound when you sell something on eBay. So
it was a Weird Mysteries number 6. That's the one where they're pulling the severed head out of the top hat.
Nice.
Yeah, and I was on the bubble. I just missed it.
Well, this Superman 9.0, I love the fact that the highest graded is also a first printing.
Yeah, I didn't know that
that didn't have to be the case, right? And in fact, statistically, it is unlikely that it would be the case. So
yes,
that really is a treasure right there. And also, Zatanna in the top hat, displacing Superman to the little side bubble on the cover of Action 12. Another favorite moment of mine.
Yeah.
Well,
Can I say one thing too? Just
everybody should say whatever they have to say, because then we got to wrap up, Phil. Fire away.
So given enough time, and because we are fortunate enough to have seen the Super 190 at Collector Summit when we went down prior to the
Yeah, we got to
auction
see it
ending.
in person.
And it's easy to say, in person that thing looked incredible. But it's easy. People always have dismissive opinions about things, and even myself at first, that stain at the top, I was like, really? I was like, CGC, you're hitting my books real tough for staining, but I see a stain there. But you know what? Really, that's basically it. That's the reason it's not a 9.6 or a 9 point whatever. It's like everything else in that book's basically perfect except for that one stain. I think that it's a fair grade, and I don't think that CGC would do something, to kind of shoot themselves in the foot if they were giving a gift grade out in a book that has that much profile, high profile. So It is really a sharp copy.
Yeah. Jeff Jack, thank you for the correction. I'm going to claim Freudian slip there on Zatanna. Thank you. Though I do appreciate the record being set straight. Larry, Shelby, any other last words before I wrap us?
No, I think I'm good.
All right. Yeah. Well, thank you again to this show's sponsors, Jim Collegier, Don Carter, Gorilla Monkey 3K. The generous sponsorship allowed us to do this live and ad free. Next week, the generosity continues. We have You Pluck My Last Comic, Jim Collegier again, Don Carter, Collecting Chaos, and Gorilla Monkey 3K, all providing you with the fun entertainment that you enjoy without ads. And I will say thank you again for your patience. We started this A block 2 weeks ago, didn't get to finish it till now. Better luck next year to our Pistons. Tomorrow, remember our fallen heroes. And until next time, take care of one another.